Recently on my Twitch, I've been doing a super modded playthrough that required me to install 64-bit tModLoader, which if you're not aware, basically allows Terraria to utilize more of your computer's resources, giving you the opportunity to run more mods. But another feature of 64-bit tModLoader that I just learned about is a fourth, extra large world size. When I first learned about this new larger world option on stream, I took a brief look, but it was far from a complete investigation, leaving me with many questions still on my mind. So what I want to do today is investigate them deeper to try and grasp the true scale of these extra large worlds. We did it! This is insane looking. What happened to my boy the Abyss? Look what they've done to my boy. Oh no. Kicking off the analysis, I wanted to think of an activity that most Terraria players would partake in at some point in a playthrough, and I wanted this task to be directly affected by world size. With these conditions in mind, I came up with two things that I could test. First, being how long it takes to travel from spawn all the way to the ocean world border, and second, being the time it takes to dig a elevator from the surface to the underworld. The journey to the edge of the world was pretty straightforward to test. First, I generated a large and an XL world. Then I equipped a character for each world with a double jump, lightning boots, and a shield of Cthulhu. Once prepared, I began the trek to the ocean, and timed how long it would take for each world size. An interesting thing to note is that the XL world enlarges every biome, meaning that you need to spend more time crossing hazardous terrain, such as jungles and corruptions. So not only does it take longer to cross an XL world, but it's also more dangerous for the player, and could potentially make it near impossible to reach the edges of your world for a decent chunk of the playthrough. Now obviously this test is affected by the ruggedness of the terrain, as well as other factors, so times could vary from seed to seed. With this in mind, after the first test, I built a platform in the sky and tested running to the edge again. This time, it took exactly twice as long to reach the end of the XL world, meaning that the total length of the extra large worlds is double that of a regular large world. And with that conclusion out of the way, it was now time to test the depth. Using the same worlds, I equipped two characters with a silver pickaxe and mining potion, since that is the loadout that I tend to find myself using when digging elevators in a playthrough. Something that I would like to mention is that I ignored liquids with gills and obsidian skin potions for this test. In most playthroughs, I wouldn't have access to these luxuries, and instead I would have to relocate the fluids myself, taking more time. But since this test was more focused on a comparison between the two world sizes, I opted to remove a bit of realism to make the experiment more streamlined. With the final mining times tallied, we can see that the extra large world did take quite a bit longer than the normal large world, which was to be expected. However, unlike the running test, it did not take twice as long, and there could be a few reasons for this. Although I do believe that the total height of the world is double that of a large world, my guess is that there's simply more airspace at the top, meaning that you don't actually have to dig twice as much. No matter the cause, I next ran the test 2 more times with orichalcum and vortex pickaxes, and found very similar results. Whether this is a coincidence or intended by the world gen, I'm not sure, but personally I do think that I prefer that you don't have to do quite as much mining. With the movement and digging tests complete, I decided to run one more comparison to hopefully grasp the true sides of the extra large worlds. This comparison consisted of me opening up a few large and extra large worlds in tEdit and recording some statistics. Now originally I wanted to export the block composition of each world size and do another how long would it take to mine each world test, like I did in the copper pickaxe video. But unfortunately, every time I tried to run an analysis of an extra large world, tEdit would crash. So instead, I just resorted to manually counting a few things. The statistics that I ended up recording were number of floating islands, number of evil biomes, number of granite biomes, and number of marble biomes. Also, even though I couldn't get a full world analysis, I did manage to record how many chests were contained within the worlds, because tEdit kept giving me a warning about exceeding the chest limit when I tried to save, which is pretty funny, because if you aren't aware, in 1.3 you couldn't actually place more than 1,000 chests in a single world, and these extra large worlds, which are generated in 1.3, already contain more than that limit before you even load in. A nice byproduct of this error was that I could use these warnings that tEdit gave me to compare the number number of total chests in each world, and found that there was well over double the total number of chests in the extra large worlds. With everything that we learned today, I think it's pretty apparent that the XL worlds really do live up to their name. I honestly don't really see any practical application for these monstrous worlds, other than maybe a large-scale public survival server or something along those lines. But regardless, if you've never experienced these worlds, I don't think you're missing out on too much. However, if you really are interested in checking out these XL worlds, I'll leave a link to a guide that lets you know how to install 64-bit tModLoader in the description. Just be warned though, 64-bit is not as stable as 32-bit, so make sure you back up your worlds and characters before you jump in. And with all that said, we've reached the end of the video. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing so you don't miss out on future uploads. And finally, if you want to see live content, I'm actually doing a 12-hour live stream at the time of uploading this video over on Twitch. There'll be a link in the description if you're interested. But with that out of the way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you to Beav Notice Me Senpai and all my other patrons for helping make this video possible. 8, 9, 10? 11? 11 sword shrines?